to 89.3 KPFB. This is Berkeley and Beyond, and for this segment of the show, we are in conversation with Yvette Felarca, who is a teacher at BUSD, as well as Lori Nixon, also a teacher for the school district. They are both plaintiffs in the lawsuit against the district to stop them from releasing email communication to the right-wing organization Judicial Watch, which has filed a Public Records Act request to obtain all emails that contain the words Felarca, by all means necessary, BAM, and Antifa. So here to talk about that is Yvette and Lori.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Yvette, can you tell us a little bit about your history with political activism? How did you get involved in it?
So I've been a political organizer and activist for more than half my life, since I was an undergrad at SUNY Albany. But I also moved to California and helped found the Civil Rights and Immigrant Rights Organization, BAM, by any means necessary. And I've been committed to defending immigrant rights, civil rights, public education, and the rights of teachers and school workers for decades now.
And you have sparred with conservative commentators on cable television. Can you tell us what that experience is like?
Yeah, I was on, I think, Tucker Carlson's show on Fox News last year, defending the shutdown of Milo Yiannopoulos and the actions that protesters took to stop the terrorization of of the UC Berkeley campus and of our community by white supremacists and neo-fascists that always come to Yiannopoulos when he speaks. And I'm really glad that I did that, because it's so important that we shut down any attempts by neo-fascists or alt-right racists or immigrant bashers to try to terrorize, especially immigrant and Muslim members of our community. It's about the safety of our community members, and especially of people who already face so much discrimination and attacks. And so I was pretty surprised at how lame and weak Tucker Carlson was in the kinds of things that he was asking or the things he had to say, and, found that there was just a lot of people who told me afterwards how they've watched the video of that interview to help them prep for when they went on his show, or took him on because we don't have to cower in front of or be afraid of some of these right-wing pundits or, conservative Fox News types. We just stand on the truth. Someone like Tucker Carlson is not the same thing as, say, Milo Yiannopoulos. He's not going around touring the country or trying to recruit people, but he's just a demagogue, and he spreads lies. And so standing on the truth is how we can take them on. I draw a distinction between him and, say, Milo Yiannopoulos and the right wing, who actually come physically to come and try to recruit people to attack us, and who also come to attack us. And those are the people who we need to make sure that we stand up against, that we protest, and we shut them down.
And your organization, which is called By All Means Necessary, that includes acts of violence against other people. Would you say that that's a true characterization of your organization?
No, I don't. That's not a true characterization of our organization. Our organization is committed to standing up for civil rights and immigrant rights, and to defend our communities from violent attacks by racists and by alt-right or fascist trolls and terrorists. In the process of that, just as anyone would in a situation where you or someone you care about is facing attacks, we definitely stand up for and defend our right to defend each other and to defend ourselves. If there was someone who you knew and saw was coming to try to attack or rape somebody that you knew, you would do everything in your power to stop that from happening. And that's our approach to standing up to stop and shut down the growth of fascism in this country. It's not only our right, but it's our duty.
And do you bring weapons to these events? if you feel like you need to defend yourself?
No, we do not bring weapons to these events, but it's documented that the right wing and the fascists are the ones who come armed. When a number of us were stabbed in Sacramento over a year ago, protesting and shutting down Nazis, that was the first time that I've been at a number of anti-fascist protests where the Nazis brought weapons and where they almost killed some of us. And it was a real wake-up call about what the danger of the Trump era is. That was before Trump was elected. And we've seen since then, with Charlottesville and the murder of Heather Heyer, or the physical attacks and attacks on people in this community by fascists and alt-right, not just trolls, but terrorists physically beating and brutalizing members of Berkeley's community. It's so imperative that we take seriously the importance of building this movement to stop their further attacks on us and to defend ourselves and our rights and each other.
Can you describe the scene in Sacramento last year?
There's a lot that was kind of a big blur because it was such a crazy situation. The main thing I can say and characterize is that there is a lot of pain and a lot of fear and shock. And so the most memorable impression to me of Sacramento was the horror of seeing people who had been protesting against fascism, on the ground, lying on the ground with blood pouring out of them, immobilized, and wondering if they were going to live or die. And it was incredibly traumatic, and nobody in no community should ever have to face that. Not Sacramento, not Berkeley, not Charlottesville, not Shelby in Tennessee. No one should go through that. And we can defeat the right wing, but it means we've got to organize and take seriously the danger that they pose and recognize that they're still a tiny minority, but we've got to keep them that way and keep them small before they grow bigger and therefore more able to conduct the kinds of, murder that they've been carrying out in this country.
So how did you get stabbed?
So I got stabbed in the arm and bashed in the head. I'm not sure who it was who did that. We're currently going over a lot of the information and evidence that the DA has submitted, and we're going to be going to court this Thursday. I would like to be able to identify who it is who stabbed me, but I can tell you this: the police know who the fascists are who stabbed us, and they only arrested one person, despite the fact that there are almost a dozen anti-fascists who were stabbed and hospitalized. They're the criminals, and then for the police to stand by and do nothing was itself a criminal act, and it was deliberate. They did not care. They were standing on the side of the Nazis and the fascists, and in their persecution and prosecution of anti-fascists. And it's why it's so important that we need to unite together and defend each other from the legal prosecution as well as the physical attacks by the fascists.
And can you talk about the scene at the Yiannopoulos event last September where you were arrested? We saw video of police pushing you down to the ground. Can you describe the scene there?
Yeah, there's no question that Berkeley police has been colluding with the alt-right and the neo-fascists at all these demonstrations. It's been anti-fascists who've been arrested at all of these, and very few of the Nazis or the alt-right supporters. Or they arrested the people and haven't prosecuted them and pursued charges. It's really outrageous. It's a scandal. People should stand up against that and contact the city council and the mayor and make clear Berkeley police should not be complicit and cooperating with white supremacists to terrorize this community. And so what happened to me was just one example of what's happened to so many people. I was protesting Joey Gibson and the alt-right and Kyle Chapman, who've come here and physically assaulted members of this community. I got shoved by one of Joey Gibson's supporters into Kyle Chapman, and then the police, instead of arresting the guy who shoved me and was jostling me and other members of BAM and anti-fascist protesters, they arrest me and also Eddie Robinson simply because he was standing next to me and was holding my arm while we were getting dragged around and shoved around. The police have not, and the DA have not pursued charges against me in that, but they have pursued charges against Eddie and also against other anti-fascist protesters from earlier demonstrations from earlier this year, including the Berkeley Five, that includes Dustin Sautel and Nathan Perry and others. And BAM is absolutely fighting and standing up for the charges against all anti-fascists who've been courageously standing up in defense of this community. So all those charges should be dropped immediately.
You don't seem like the typical person who would be involved in these kinds of melees, in that you are a school teacher, a soft-spoken young woman, and do you find that people are surprised by the fact that you are in the center of a lot of this clash with really people who are extremists?
You know, I think there's no stereotype for how many people and the different kinds of people in this country who are completely opposed and angry and furious about what the Trump era has meant for the attacks on our rights and the authoritarianism and threats that he poses, or any stereotype of the kinds of people who then are prepared to take a stand against that. And so I'm not that young, and I'm not that soft-spoken when I'm not in a radio, doing a radio interview. But, okay, all that aside, there's a whole lot of different kinds of people who are part of this movement, and BAM is made up of people from all different walks of life. We're an integrated organization where all you have to do is be someone who's really committed to taking action and building this movement to stand up for civil rights and make sure that we fight against and to stop all the raids and deportations that are happening, the scapegoating of Muslims, the attacks on women and misogyny, the attacks on public education, and our basic democratic rights as people who work in the schools, as people who, to be able to express our political views, become educated with each other, and to also act on our political beliefs, because we have to learn the lessons from history. We can't stand aside and hope that the police or the politicians are going to take care of things for us. That is a part of why we've gotten into this crisis as a nation to begin with. The Democrats are absolutely far too weak. They're too timid. They have created and laid the groundwork for the situation. It's time for us to take matters into our own hands by building this movement and taking to the streets and standing up and making clear we stand for democracy in this country. We are not going to let Trump tyranny take over this nation or let the fascists wage some kind of coup through Trump by terrorizing people simply because of their immigration status, their religious affiliations, their political views and opposition. And I was just, our lawsuit against Berkeley Unified School District is so incredibly central and vital to the defense of our free speech rights and right to free association.
And Lori, you are one of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit. Can you tell us how you came to be involved in it?
Sure. I have been working for BUSD for the past year, and in that time I have seen how Berkeley Unified and the administration has gone after Ms. Felarca. Teachers, staff, even custodians, everyone who works at Berkeley Unified is terrified that they're going to treat us the same way they've treated Ms. Felarca if we go out in the streets and organize. Teachers, school workers, we are the leaders that this community needs. Our students need to see us standing up against Trump, standing up against Jeff Sessions and his racist policies. They need to see us organizing. And the way that Berkeley Unified treats teachers and staff members who are doing that organizing and leading our community is an abomination. Staff members have come to me and said they are scared to even wear their union t-shirt out in public if they are going to be at a demonstration, and that is not right. And when we got the email saying that they were going to be going through our emails, before I even talked to Yvette at all, the general consensus was that is not right. So when it came up that we were going to file a lawsuit was going to be filed, I had no reservations at all about joining in this lawsuit, because it's that important. We're not just fighting for King Middle School, we're fighting for every school worker across this district in the greater Bay Area, California, every state in the nation basically. This is a big deal, and I'm really proud to be part of this lawsuit.
And so why is it important for your students to see you organize? What are you hoping to teach your students?
I am hoping to teach our students that they do not need to accept terrorization from the government, from administration, from anyone in their community. They have a right to exist. They have a right to educate themselves. They have a right to live freely without feeling like they are going to get pulled out of school, or when they get out of school that their family has been taken by ICE and now they're completely abandoned. Our students are really scared, and they need to see people standing up. They need to see people taking action and really confirming what they already know. Our kids are brilliant. They are so smart. They recognize injustice in the drop of a hat. They see something wrong, they know it's wrong, and they don't always know how to express that or what they can do about it. We've successfully, our staff successfully organized relief funds for the fires that were happening, for the hurricanes, so they know when something's wrong that they can do something about it. But when it comes to policies of the government, they're not as sure what to do. A lot of people say, they can't even vote. Why are they, their opinion doesn't matter. And I don't think that's true at all. My activism started I can trace it back to when I was 10 years old, so in the 5th grade. So our students have the political power inside them, and it's our duty as educators to help them develop that.
And that's actually one of the dangers of what the district and Judicial watch are doing. They're really trying to quash and chill not just the free speech of teachers and school workers, but also academic freedom. And I agree that it's really a way to try to then deny the young people a chance to learn, both from role models in their community and in their school community, but also to learn more about how they have their own voice and how they have a right to develop their own political opinions, independent of whether adult authority figures in front of them, whether that's their teacher, whether that's the mayor, whether that's the president of the United States, that they can stand on their own principles, draw their own conclusions, and take action and fight for the kind of society that they know they deserve, and then and make the decisions to then organize the kinds of actions that can make that happen. That's what's so crucial at the bottom of this.
And so this week, a judge issued a temporary restraining order against the district moving forward with Judicial Watch's Public Records Act request. Where do we go from here? What's the next step?
So we're very pleased about the restraining order that the judge issued. It's very difficult to get a temporary restraining order in these kinds of civil cases. Someone told me something like 90% of them are rejected, and so it really speaks a lot to the courage of Lori and Larry, the teachers who submitted declarations and affidavits, evidence on the chilling impact on free speech that this has had on them, and their own willingness, despite that, to stand up and assert their right and their fundamental Someone told me something like 90% of them are rejected, and so it really speaks a lot to the courage of Lori and Larry, the teachers who submitted declarations and affidavits, evidence on the chilling impact on free speech that this has had on them, and their own willingness, despite that, to stand up and assert their right and their fundamental democratic rights. But now from here, the next step is that the district has filed a response to our lawsuit, and one of the things they've done is they are now opposing our demand for an injunction, which means that they should just not turn over the records at all. They should not mine our emails and shouldn't turn over the records to Judicial Watch regardless. They say they are opposing that, and they've also invited Judicial Watch to be co-defendants with them in the lawsuit. That's something that BAM does not oppose because we are also suing Judicial Watch, but it is a real scandal that the Berkeley Unified School District Administration is now defending their right to violate our free speech as teachers and school workers, and is now actively co-defendants with a right-wing, alt-right connected organization against the democratic interests of their own workers. That's a scandal.
Yeah, it's an absolute slap in the face that BUSD would partner or even invite Judicial Watch to be part of a lawsuit in general. They should be outright rejecting Judicial Watch's request. They should be defending not just their staff, but defending their students. And partnering with Judicial Watch shows that they do not care about what happens to their students. Judicial Watch is actively working against sanctuary status. BUSD is supposed to be a sanctuary school district. That is what it's supposed to be. But what kind of message are they sending when they are actively partnering with a group who is trying to demolish sanctuary across the country? That is not right. And parents, students, all staff, and even if you do not have a student in BUSD, you should be directly appalled and rejecting this call for your BUSD to partner with Judicial Watch.
So we're waiting for a hearing. The judge in this case is going to set a hearing date at a certain point. There's a very likely chance that the current timetable that everything is on is going to be delayed again. Which is a good thing because the longer, we don't want our emails mined or turned over to Judicial Watch. The current new deadline was for November 9. It's very likely that deadline will be pushed back again. As they wait for Judicial Watch, their new partners and co-defendants to respond, which is scandalous. But that also means then that gives our side more time to then gather more evidence and to organize more community support. And we are asking everybody, both in Berkeley but also outside of Berkeley, to express your outrage by this, to contact Superintendent Donald Evans and let him know Berkeley should not be defending Judicial Watch and their request for these public records. Berkeley should not do this, but also to contact BAM and let us know, send us letters too, expressing your defense of teachers and school workers' rights to free speech, to not have our political views mined and set aside and turned over, because the ramifications of this go far beyond Martin Luther King. They go far beyond Berkeley Unified. Every school or public worker is going to be affected by this, and it's important that we stand up against it because it's possible for us to win.
So BUSD issued a statement that basically said, look, our hands are tied, and it was sympathetic in saying that we don't really want to do this. It's taking up a lot of our time when we could be focusing on our students' education. I'm sure you read the statement. Mm-hmm. What did you think of it?
They're lying. Ultimately, they're lying. They could be fighting this. They could be defending us. They can say no. Mm-hmm. They can defend us. And it's really important to be clear with everyone that we're not filing this lawsuit because we have something to hide. It's more about the chilling effect that this has. Sure, Judicial Watch is an ultra-conservative right-wing group, but any group demanding a school district turn over personal information about their workers is wrong. It could come from any group. Next up could be any person saying, oh, I want to know every school worker who mentioned Trump in their emails, and they could target people based on that, and that is not right. So BUSD is lying when they say that they can't do anything. They could do something, and they have a repeated pattern of facilitating an active witch hunt against Ms. Felarca and any other politically active staff member.
Yeah, I really agree with that. They could say no, and if they face a lawsuit by Judicial Watch, then at least Berkeley Unified will be defendants against a right-wing witch hunt against their own employees. And then they'd be on the right side because they'd actually be defending their own workers against a witch hunt. But instead, they're complying, so guess what? They're facing a lawsuit from us. And it's right that they do face that, because otherwise they're going to go through and do this again. And this has a chilling impact on anybody's free speech rights. And if the California Democratic Party wanted a Freedom of Information request from Berkeley, and they wanted to see all the school employees in Berkeley and who mentioned Trump or who mentioned Hillary Clinton, because they want to mine that information for themselves and do whatever they want to do with that. We would object to that also. But, that's not what our side does in general, right? It's the right wing that does these things in order to carry out witch hunts against progressives and against the left. And so, but this has far-reaching impact. If the district wanted to, not just in Berkeley, but let's say a more conservative school district in Orange County or something, wanted to start mining their employees' emails to see what people wrote about Black Lives Matter and opposition to police brutality, they shouldn't have a right to do that. But if Berkeley Unified does this to their own teachers and school workers, that's the next step. I mean, this literally chills the free speech and rights of those of us in the schools to protest against injustice, to talk to each other about this and have information and share views and ideas and even debate each other freely. And of course, that has, a chilling impact on what we do and how we even handle these questions and issues in the classroom. It really quashes our free speech, and it makes us all censor ourselves in a manner that is not conducive toward genuine free speech or free debate. It's actually just a way to create fear and suspicion and a kind of institution of whispers and, regimentation that is antithetical to real quality public education.
Okay, well, my guests have been Yvette Felarca and Lori Nixon, political activists and school teachers at Berkeley Unified School District. Thank you both for being on the show.
Thank you, Sadia.
Thanks for having us.